The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So good morning everyone, and welcome to Learning Pool's third and final webinar masterclass in the Adapt Learning series. My name is Lisa McGonigal, and I'm absolutely delighted to see so many of you joining us online this morning. We have Simon Ray, the whole way from Canberra in Australia. Welcome, Simon. Newport's Bob Price, Fiona from Doncaster, and many more. So this session today will explore how to publish an Adapt Learning course. And joining me online is Learning Pool's Chief Operating Officer, lovely Deborah Lynn, Content Development Coordinator, Eoin Donaghy, and Kevin Doherty, one of our instructional designers. So I just want to check at the start to ensure that everyone can hear us okay. So you'll see a small orange hand beside your name. If you could just raise that and let me know if you can hear the audio. Great stuff. Thanks, Fiona. Brilliant. Thanks, James. Great stuff. Thanks, Joanne. So this morning's session, like our other two masterclasses, should last in around 50 minutes. And there'll be an opportunity for you to interact with us throughout the session. And this includes the questions box that you'll find at the bottom of the control panel. If you just pop your questions in there, and we'll answer them at various sessions, various times throughout this morning. There'll also be a couple of polls that I've set up. Just going to gauge people's knowledge of Adapt and their experience or potential in publishing an Adapt course. So before I pop you over to Deborah, I'm just going to launch one of the polls that I've mentioned. So to get an idea of, have you actually published an Adapt course? Great stuff. The votes are flying in here. I'll just give that now or 5 or 10 seconds. Great stuff. Interesting results, Eoin and Deborah.
It's great to see that 37% of attendees have actually published an Adapt course, and it tells me that people are building courses and finishing them. Hopefully they're publishing them and getting them onto their learning management systems for people to start using them. So that's really great to see. For those of you who haven't, today's event will be useful to you, I hope. So yeah, that's great to see. Good to see so many people getting hands on with Adapt already.
Great. Thanks, Deborah. So I'm just going to pop the presenter over to yourself, Deborah. So
thank you.
Got you.
Lovely, thank you, Lisa.
Great.
Well, good morning, everybody, and it's lovely to see so many people joining the webinar today. And I'm sure a number of you have attended the webinars that we've done over the last couple of weeks on Adapt, but if you haven't, not to worry. We did a Building an Adapt Learning course and a Theming an Adapt Learning course webinars over the last 2 weeks, and these were both recorded and are available on learningpool.com, so you can go and visit those and indeed revisit. The Theming one is a little bit more challenging in some ways, a little bit more technical, so that might be worth a revisit even for some of you who attended that. But encourage you to get hands-on and have a go with the Adapt Builder. So today is very much about publishing an Adapt Learning course, that final magical piece that allows you to launch your e-learning course out there to your learners. So we'll be joining Eoin for that very shortly. We've been doing a series of sort of events and activities around Adapt, and we'll continue to do so. I just want to sort of draw your attention to an e-book that we published last month that's available for free on learningpool.com, and really begins to look at, why scrolling, why we're moving away from page turning, and what are the benefits, what's the background to that, why do we think that modern savvy learners are enjoying using Adapt, and indeed e-learning designers too. So I do recommend the e-book. We're also holding 2 Adapt events, one on the 3rd of June in Leeds, the 10th of June in London. Again, these are free events for you to attend. You can, if you go to the events page on learningpool.com, you can sign up to attend those, and they will be very much a showcase for Adapt and the Adapt Builder, some Learning Pool customers showcasing the work that they've done, Some of our content team there, Eoin will be in Leeds, Lindsay in London, talking about some instructional design approaches with Adapt, and some of our lovely graphics team as well, who will be highlighting how we can really make Adapt content visually stimulating for our learners and some good, easy ways to do that. So, you know, I do recommend those events. We've also recently updated our Academy Adapt course. So the Learning Pool Academy is our tool, our online tool for Learning Pool customers to upskill and build their knowledge and confidence around our products and tools. And many of you may have done the original Adapt program, but Kevin and our team has been busy updating that, and we launched a new version, really worth a revisit if you've done the previous course, which addresses the things that we've been covering recently, like theming and publishing. So that new course is there available for you to dip in and dip out of and top up your knowledge as you need to. Lisa will cover some of those things about the events in the Academy again at the end of the call and how you can access those things. Now, I'm sure many of you, as we know, have attended these Adapt webinars before and are quite familiar with Adapt, but I'm conscious that not everybody on the call will have been. So very, very briefly, before I hand you over to Eoin, I just want to give you a little bit of context for today's session. Adapt, as I'm sure many of you know, allows us to build and to publish multi-device learning content. That means that we can access the content. We can build it once, but we can publish it out to be easily accessible on mobile devices, on tablets, and on the desktop as well. But it isn't just about mobile. It's about a different learning experience that also is a great experience on the PC. It moves us away from page turning into a deep scrolling page, more in line probably, I think, with today's learners' experience of using the web. And we think also it does provide a really good opportunity to give learners a rich visual canvas. I think it works very well with different types of graphics, from a photographic style to a drawn character style with icons, that makes it a really visually stimulating experience that works well with the e-learning content. It allows us to develop interactive, easy-to-use content that's, I think, very enjoyable to use, which is the feedback that we are getting from learners. And again, for more about that, I would really recommend the ebook that I referenced that talks very much to learning designers about the why as well as the how. So, you know, there's lots of very positive things we think about Adapt, that it's built on open source technology. We have been leading partners on the development of Adapt since October 2013, and during the last 12 months particularly, we've been working on the Builder, the easy-to-use tool that enables you to create and edit and, of course, publish Adapt content, and that we're focusing on today. Things that we love about the Adapt Builder, that it's an online tool. Our previous authoring tool had to be downloaded to the PC, which was a nuisance for many customers, particularly when we provided updates. They had to re-download the piece again. As an online tool, we can easily push out updates to you. There's no local downloading, no issues about getting your IT team to support with that where that's required. But more importantly, I think, because it's online, it supports a collaborative approach. So we find that great as our instructional designers build and share content, and you yourselves, when you're authoring with colleagues, that you too can build content and easily share that within the Builder for others to see, to edit, to review. So that collaborative nature of Adapt is something that we love and are excited about. It's pretty easy to use to create and edit content. That's very much the feedback that we've had. There are some things that I think can improve, and we will improve certainly over time. But we've got over 150 customers who are using the Builder. Some have had a little bit of face-to-face coaching, but the majority have had the online training via the Academy and have really cracked on and, you know, produced some great content with little reference to us, which is great to see. The tool outputs SCORM-compliant HTML5 content, which is essential for today. And, you know, the fact that we are constantly developing Adapt. We're busy working on some new components and some new extensions as we speak, in fact, and we'll be sharing some more about some of that at those forthcoming events and through our website and other webinars such as this down the line. So it's, you know, it's something that's moving and changing and growing, which is also great, I think, for both designers and learners. So Adapt is built around a number of components, and there are 20 available at the moment. Some of them on the screen there for you to see, but as I just said, that we are very much developing those, looking to do some elements of gamification, and some really quite interesting components will come out over the weeks, months and years from here, I'm pleased to say. So I'm going to move quickly on to hand you over to Eoin, who's going to initially just show you some published content so that you get a real context for what Adapt content looks like, and also will then take you through the nuts and bolts of publishing a content and uploading it through to your LMS. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
That's great, Deborah. Thank you very much. So we're just going to pass you over to Eoin.
Okay, thanks very much, Lisa, and thanks very much, Deborah. So this is going to be the third in a series of 3 webinars. So the first one, we had Arlene showing how to set up a new course and how to add pages, articles, blocks and components to build up the content of the course, and we used the title Agile Working as an example. Then last week we had Kevin, who took a completed version of the same Agile Working course, and he showed us how to add and customize the LP base theme and to get the course looking fit for release. So this week we'll see that process through to the conclusion. So really there's a number of other things that you need to do before publishing your course and adding it to your LMS, and we'll run through each of these this morning. And we'll also demonstrate some nice little features that you might want to add to your course as well. These come in the form of extensions, and we'll run through each of those and show what each one does. First off though, we're going to show off a few examples of completed published courses, as Deborah mentioned, just so we can see these things in action. And also there's a slight follow-on from last week when we spoke about theming. The different courses that we're about to show, we'll show off some of the different themes that we've used and the customization settings within themes that Kevin spoke about last week. So this is the Agile Working course, and I'm going to show now. So this is the completed, finished version of the course that we've been building over the course of the 3 webinars. So if I just go into this, you can see all the content's built and all the theming work is done already. It uses the LP base theme as demonstrated by Kevin on last week's webinar. You can see where we've added the logo and the sector logo in the top left as he demonstrated last week, and the big background image, and then specified a color for each of the sections, which then pulls through to the articles and components within each section. So the blue color here, as you can see on the screen. But the main thing I wanted to show here is the page level progress extension. So this is one that you'll probably use all the time, I would have thought. It's where you can set tracking against any or all of the components within your course. So it's just this little icon on the top right hand corner. And then the user can track their progress through the course in that way. So you can see which components you've completed and which you haven't. And then you can click on any one to be taken straight there, just by literally clicking on the component itself. So we'll show you how to set that up shortly when we go into the builder. But just moving on to another course, which this one's managing your priorities. And again, this one uses a different theme from the Agile Working course. This one uses the LP Recommend theme, which is also available to all Learning Pool customers who are using Adapt Builder. And it's also customizable in that the menu background and page backgrounds can be swapped in and out depending on the content. Again, the main thing that I wanted to show here was the resources extension. So it's this little icon on the top right hand corner, the little burger icon. And again, let's say this is probably one that you'll find yourself using a fair bit. It gives you the ability to link to documents or any other kind of resource. In this case, it's a Word document. So whenever you click on that, it automatically downloads. So it gives you the option to open or save depending on which browser you're using. So we'll just cancel that. And again, we'll show you how to set that one up shortly. Now, third, final course I want to show, it's one that we did on palliative and end-of-life care for one of our customers. And I'll just open this one up as well. And you'll see that straight away you can see that it uses a different theme altogether again. So this is an example of custom CSS code which sits on top of the LP base theme so that it appears differently. And Kevin touched upon that last week when he covered the theming of courses. But this course also uses a different menu as well. It's called the slider menu for probably obvious reasons. And also that's available to all LP customers through the menu picker on Adapt Builder as well. The extension that I wanted to show here though is the menu item completion. So if you scroll down, this is an option that we've added following feedback from some of our customers who thought it would be useful to have a display against each section that tells the user which bits they've completed. If, say, they've gone away from the course and come back the following day, for example, as I'm sure a lot of people do. So you can see that section 1 is not started at present, section 2 in progress, and section 3 fully completed. Again, we'll show you how to set that and some of the other extensions up shortly. But just before we do, I think we're going to go back to Lisa for a poll.
Okay. Thanks, Eoin. So just following on from what Eoin has covered, I want to get a flavour of which of the available extensions have you been adding to your published courses up to now. So you'll be able to select multiple options there from page level progress to maybe the footer navigation, resources. You just haven't got that far yet and you're saying you haven't published a course so far, but just getting an idea of what people are using who have been down to publishing. But we'll just give that another 5 seconds. Okay, so we'll share the results of that. So what we're seeing, Eoin and Deborah, is like a high level of respondents are using that page level progress. Almost half are saying that extensions that haven't even published a course yet, which is totally understandable. And with 10% have used none.
Yeah, okay, well, that's not surprising that most people probably haven't published a course yet, so I guess that's probably why they're here, and they should learn everything that they need to know before they do that. Interesting to see that a lot of people have used page level progress though, and good to see that too, because it's probably, well, a very useful feature to have. Resources, kind of surprised that people haven't been using that so much. I would imagine a lot of people would probably use it going forward if maybe they just didn't know how to use it or didn't know how to set it up. So hopefully after today's webinar they'll know all that.
Great stuff. Thanks, Eoin. Okay, so we'll just...
Okay, so first thing we're going to do here is have a look at our finished themes course from last week on Agile Working. So this is the one we were using for the webinar demo. So if I click and go into that course and then preview, you can see that it's not got any of the extensions that I mentioned, no resources, no page level progress, no, well, nothing at all really at the moment. So we'll go through and add each of the extensions in turn, and then we'll show how to publish the course and add it to the LMS as well. So this is the one, as I said, that Arlene and Kevin have been building over the previous 2 webinars, sort of a here's one we made earlier kind of a thing. And all we're really going to do now is add the final flourishes. So you should have all your content and all your theming in place already by this stage and ready to go. So to add extensions, first thing you need to do is go into Manage Extensions on your Adapt menu. And then you can see a list of all the available extensions at the bottom, and currently there are none enabled and none added. So there's one extension that's absolutely essential if you're planning to use your course on an LMS and have users tracked against it, and that's the SPUR extension. This is what puts the SCORM technology through your course and allows it to be tracked on the LMS. So I would generally always add this extension first. So you just click on Add and then OK, and then add the SPUR. So once added, you go back to the menu and go into Configuration Settings. Then you'll see an Extensions field here. You can see that you've added SPUR, so you click on SPUR, and then you need to make sure that the settings are set up correctly. So the first two you can leave as defaults really. The first one relates to an in-course assessment where you might have a pass or fail mark in order for the module to be considered complete. But since the technology doesn't yet exist to set up a trackable scored assessment through the builder, we really just want the user to have completed the module rather than attained any particular score. So we just set these to completed, so you're fine to leave those as they are for now. There are a couple more assessment related settings in there, but for the same reason we set these to false, so that's submit score. So you're not actually looking for your user to attain any particular score, so that should be set to false. And then there's no assessment that needs to be passed, so that's set to false as well. I mean, these are things that are going to be coming in the future, but for now it's better to keep them at false. So the other two remaining ones are course completion required, which you obviously want to set to true because you want your users to have completed the course. And then SCORM is enabled, should be set to true as well. Fairly self-explanatory. So the settings you generally want here, just to recap, are completed, completed, false, true, and then save. And then if I go back into manage extensions, the next one that we're going to add is the tutor extension. So if you have any multiple choice questions or matching questions, for example, this allows a basic feedback overlay to display on those components. So if I go back into the Agile Working preview, you can see here we have an example of a multiple choice question. So if I select an answer and click on submit, you can see here the tutor extension at work. So it links up your feedback to the component itself. So you'll notice, as I said, that there's no page level progress in place for this this version of the course. So that's the one that we're going to add next. So we'll go to page level progress, click on add, OK. So once you've added your page level progress, you can go back to the menu, and then we're going to click on preview again just to recompile the course. Now, whenever you've added any extensions and you preview, it literally rebuilds everything and puts it all back together again. So it usually takes a few seconds longer than a preview normally would if you were just editing content or adding graphics or anything like that. So there we go. So you can now see a refresh course. So if I go into page 1, you can now see the page level progress has been added and the feature's been enabled. So it'll automatically add every component that's in your course into page level progress, but you may not want to include them all. For example, where there's a static graphic, say, that it's just really there for decoration, we don't generally include that in the page level progress. Or, you know, for example, instructional text. So if I scroll to the bottom here, you'll see there's a click or tap on the home button on the top left to return to the menu. The user doesn't really need to have visited that component to be considered to have completed the course. So you may well want to turn that off. So in order to turn off a component, you just need to go into the component edit screen. So this is in page 1. Scroll right to the bottom, go to the component that you want. And then you can see page level progress in the extensions field at the bottom. Click on that and then set to false. Save it and then preview again. And then you can now see that this component's been taken off the page level progress. You can also, excuse me, you can also see the value in giving your component names as well, as these will show up on the page level progress display tray. So these are set in the component edit screen as well. So if we go back in and let's see this one different forms of Agile Working. You can find it here. It's this hot graphic. So if you go in here, you'll see that we've given it a title, but we don't generally use the display title field. Often this is just a duplicate of the article title, and you don't really need the same title appearing twice on the screen. So here you have the article title, and then you have the component, and then you can see that it's called different forms of Agile Working, and it's not complete. So if I just go through and complete each of the 6 items within the hot graphic, you can see the progress bar moved up a little bit, and then different forms of agile working is now complete. So going back into managing extensions, so these three that we've set here already, Spur, Page Level Progress, and Tutor, these extensions are what we would call the essentials that you'll probably use in every course. But there are others that are kind of in the optional extra category, really. First of these is Trickle. So this is a bit of a work in progress at the moment, but it will be a feature that you can add that locks your content on a certain article or component, so that the user can't scroll down until they've completed that activity. But as I say, that one's still on the drawing board at the moment. The next one is Resources. So we showed you earlier how this looks on the Managing Your Priorities course when actually in place on a course, but let's show you how to set it up. So first thing you need to do is click on Add and OK. And then once it's been added, again, go back to your menu bar. This time go into Project Settings. Scroll down to the extensions, and then you can see Resources has been added. So click on that, and then in order to add a resource, you just need to click on Add. And it brings up a little pop-out tray here. Then you can browse for and select your item just as you would with a graphic. So you click on Select an Asset. You can see that we have some documents uploaded here already. So we'll click on Example Word Document and then Done, same as you would do with an asset. And then you just want to give it a title and a description. So you need to remember that these will actually display in the resources tray. So I'll just give it a description of Example Document and then the title, Example, and then select which type of resource it is. So in this case it's a document, but you also have the option for media and link, which can be edited, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So if I click on OK, that's now added it to my resources list. So we'll try adding another type of resource. So say perhaps a link to a website, which is probably one that people would use. So that would be considered an external asset because it doesn't sit within the course itself. So if you click on select an external asset and then type in your web address. So we'll go with learningtool.com. And click on Save, and then that saves your link. Again, you might want to give that a description. So we'll just say Learning Tool website, and the title will just be www.learningtool.com, and then the type this time is a link. So click on OK, and that saves your second resource there as well. So if you save that and then preview again, you should be able to see those resources. And again, because you've added a new extension, you've added some additional functionality there, it'll just have to rebuild the course, and it'll take a few seconds longer to preview than it otherwise would. So I'll just wait for that a second. So you can now see your resources icons there. So if I click on that, you can see resources. Click here to review the resources for this course. And you can see, first of all, the example document that I've added. So if I click on that, it automatically downloads the document. And then learningpool.com, Learningpool website. So I click on that, it should take me to learningpool.com. And a picture of a very handsome man there on the right-hand side. One other thing on this is that you can see that there's different filters across the top here for documents and links. So that's, if you remember when we selected these, so go back to the resources. These were available here. So you have different types. So you have link, media, document as default. But you can change these. So say, for example, you wanted to break it down, filter it by PDFs as opposed to Word documents. You could change links and media to PDFs and Word documents, and then have document as something else entirely. And then this text at the bottom, this resources, and click here to view the resources for this course. This is what appears here whenever you actually click on the resources tray. So that can be edited again to anything that you want, really. So we'll cancel that and go back into Manage Extensions, and The next extension on the list there is menu item completion. Now, again, we saw this one in action earlier, and all this does is adds a label next to each menu item, and it's this thing here that we see at the bottom. So really, it's there to tell the learner, give sort of an additional visual indicator as to how far they've got within each section, if they've left the course and come back to it at a later date. To be honest, it's not really designed to work with the LP base theme, where we think the progress bar kind of does the same job. Really, you can see pretty clearly which ones you've completed and which ones you haven't, and you can see the progress made through there. So it's probably a bit overkill to have that on the LP base theme. It's more for custom themes that perhaps don't have as obvious a progress indicator, but the option's there for you to add it if you want. And we are actually working on an additional extension at the moment that'll indicate the percentage of which the learner has completed within each section as well, which will display here too. So watch this space on that one. And then the last one on the list here is page footer navigation. So this adds an additional banner to the foot of the page. So I'm going to just add an OK, same as with the others, that allows sort of easy navigation to the next section or the previous section, and also to the home page. So go back to the page and then preview this one again, and again it's going to, because I've added the additional functionality, it should take a few seconds just to preview. So really all that does, as I say, is give you the ability to jump forward to the next page or jump to the previous page, or without actually having to go back to the menu. And you can have that displayed throughout each page, or just displayed at the end of each section, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So if I go into the first section here again, you can see the banner across the bottom here now, where you have the option to go home or to go to the next page. If I click on next, that'll jump onto page 2, and then I can go previous, back to page 1, or home to go back to the menu page. So you also have the power to control the display text here. If you want to change the text from home, next, and previous to something else, you can do that. So go to project settings and then click on page footer navigation. You can change home, previous, and next as you see fit. So the page footer navigation options, at the moment this is set to always, so it displays all the way down through the section, but you can change that to scroll to bottom, save, and then preview. And then you'll see that whenever I go into section 1 of the course, you don't automatically see that page footer until you get, you only see it when you scroll right to the bottom of the page, which might be a more user-friendly way of using it, but the option's there for you. And that's it for extensions, really. You don't really have to wait to the end of having built your course to add these, and in many cases it may be better to add them up front. I would say particularly page level progress on that score, as you can edit it as you go along, as you're building components, and you get to decide which ones you want included in page level progress and which you don't. We've just really saved it for the end of the 3 demos here, just so as not to confuse the issue, really, as we wanted the first 2 webinars to be purely about building the content and then theming. So your course is now good to publish, and the last thing you need to do is publish course and load it to your LMS. So if I go back to the menu, it really couldn't be simpler. You just literally just click on publish, and the fully scormed package will automatically download into your download folder. So you just need to browse to the course page on your LMS, which we've set up here as a sort of a dummy page, as a working webinar demo with some dummy intro or summary text at the top, and then add an activity or resource, which in this case is going to be a piece of e-learning. I'm sure you've all done this before many times anyway. And so click on add, and then that brings you to the edit page. So we're just going to give it a name. We'll call it Agile Working. Spell it properly. And then in the description we'll just say webinar demo. And then you can browse into your downloads file to find the course that you've downloaded, or if you're feeling particularly clever, you can actually drag it into the space like so. And then the last thing you need to do is in the Appearance tab, just simply select New Window Simple. That's the one that we recommend you use for Adapt content. And then scroll to the bottom, Save and Display. And we'll just wait a second while the LMS uploads the file. If it's a bigger file, it might take a little bit longer, but I don't think this one's particularly big. And then click on Enter. And then you can see that the course will open in a new window, and then you can see our all singing, all dancing, fully scorned course, complete with all extensions, including page level progress here in the top right, and then the resources icon in the top left, and then the page footer here at the bottom as well. And that's it for extensions and publishing a course.
Oh, and that's brilliant. Some gorgeous graphics, usability. It looks absolutely stunning from a usability point of view. Guys, we've had a load of questions, and so like our previous kind of 2 masterclasses, we will do our best to answer them live on this morning's session. Any that we don't get to, we will wrap it up as I've done before in a learning document and share it with everyone so you can get a flavour of what other delegates have been asking this morning. So first I was going to ask Eoin and Deborah, can resources be specific to a page or a component, or must they be at course level?
Well, they can. They are sort of only at course level, but there is an additional trick as well, which I didn't show in the webinar there, but I didn't want to confuse people too much, where you can actually copy the link. So if I go into the resources tray here, and say this document here, the example document, if I right-click on that, and then copy link location, and then actually go in and add that, so that's now saved on my clipboard as the actual address for the link, and then I can go in and add that as I would do with a hyperlink into the text, a simple text editor component, and then you can actually copy the link. You can actually have the link within your content as well, within your component, which the users can click on.
Great stuff. Hope that answers your question, James. Thank you. So Fiona has asked, we are having some modules being converted to Adapt by Kevin, and we actually have the lovely Kevin with us at the minute. So Kevin's primed to answer this question. Fiona just wants to check in regard to the minimum browser requirements for viewing. Is it still IE8, Kevin?
Yeah, the minimum browser requirements to view a module is still Internet Explorer 8 and above, as well as Chrome and Firefox. I think some issues were found there, but we're clearing those up now at the moment. The other thing I would say, though, is that if you're building a course, we would recommend anything from Internet Explorer 9 and above. We wouldn't recommend 8 for any of the actual building.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Kevin. Jonathan said he's asking a daft question, but there's no such thing as a daft question for Learning. He's asking, what is SPOR, S-P-O-O-R, and I think I need...
Yeah, essentially SPOR is just the technical term for the actual swarm tracking. So that the name of the extension is SPOR because on the underlying technical, the written code, it's known as the SPOR, and that's what actually causes the swarm tracking to work.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. James is asking, how do you create a dotted line around the graphics? He thinks it looks really, really good.
It does. The dotted line actually around those graphics is included on the actual graphic itself. It's something our graphics team have put in there. The image actually is a PNG file, so it includes some transparency. So that's where you get the distinction between the actual image and then the dotted line around it. But it's something the graphics team have put in themselves.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. Simon's asking, do you not have to have the extensions in place at the beginning of the build?
That was something Eoin mentioned there towards the end. So I mean, as we said, we had built the module and then we'd done the theming, and we saved the extensions to this week. Now, normally we would advise, it just as a matter of best practice, to include them when you're actually beginning the build, but you can add them at any stage. So if you're 4 sections in and realize that you need to add some resources, it's no problem to go on and add that at any later stage if you wish.
Okay. And Tracy's asking about page level progress. Is it the tracking of pages or the actual components?
It's actually a bit of a combination of both. So on the top right-hand corner, as you can see there, the page level progress bar is halfway through. So that's in reference to the actual the page itself. Now, when you actually click on the page level progress, it'll then show the tracking for the individual components. So it kind of does a bit of both there when you're looking at it.
Okay. Jonathan has asked in relation to kind of training-wise, he's nowhere near publishing stage. So what we actually have, Jonathan, is a recording from building an Adapt Learning course to theming an Adapt Learning course. And what I'll do is I'll share you the links to the recordings from the sessions as a follow-up.
Lisa, I would also add there, for anyone who wants to, go through the training in a more self-paced way, that the Learning Pool Academy has a program of training of Adapt modules, of Captivates, of a user guide as well, which learners can dip into, revisit, work through at their own pace. So I would really recommend that as a starting point. Most of our customers who are using the Adapt Builder have started with that Academy program, which starts from first principles of what is Adapt, what's an article, a block component, and doesn't assume any knowledge. So I would really recommend accessing the Academy. If you can do that via learningpool.com, via I think it's via the responsive learning section, but Lisa would be able to put that in any follow-up notes. Specifically, you can sign up to the Academy. So I think that's a really great place to start.
Absolutely, I agree, Deborah. Great starting point, and I'll include those links and we follow up to all the attendees from this session. In the same breath, Neil Gartland is asking, is it possible to add recordings of the webinars into the Adapt course in the Academy? Just fresh this morning, Neil, we have the recordings from building an Adapt course and theming Adapt course. They're actually on the Academy at the minute, but like I said, I'll send a link to everyone else. We have so many questions. It's great to see this level of interest from people. So the question, is there a limit to the size of the actual zip file when uploading to the LMS?
It will depend on the LMS you're using. I know usually any of our Learning Pool LMSs, we have a file upload limit of around 512 megabytes. But it is very unlikely that you would have a course of that size. In general, I mean, we find that most of the courses we would build will be 10 megabytes or under, with the majority of the time being a lot smaller. And we would recommend keeping the size of the module down, simply because when you have multiple users accessing it then across your network, you will find that the larger it is, that the slower it is to respond to so many people. But essentially, you can get up to 512 meg, but it would be very, very rare to have something near that size.
That's great, Kevin. Lorraine's asking, how does the size of the Adapt published file compare to a similar course in the author until Eoin?
Not a great deal of difference, to be honest. The size of your course will generally depend on the size of your graphics. So what we tend to do is we use so for the large background images, for example, they would tend to be the ones that the image files that take up the most room. So we tend to use JPEGs instead of PNGs for those, for example, because they're slightly smaller in file size, and just trying to get it down as much as possible because it improves speed and stuff. But in comparison with the old authoring tools, there isn't a great deal of difference. And we actually, although the graphics tend to be bigger and maybe more visually impacting and Adapt, there's probably a lot less of them than there are in the authoring tool because you don't need so many. When the authoring tool, you kind of need one on every page just to brighten it up a little bit, but you don't really need that in Adapt. So although they're bigger, there's less of them, so it all balances out really.
Great stuff. Lorraine says, fab, thanks Eoin, I think it answered her question well. So we have a few other questions, and unfortunately we just don't have the time to answer them live this morning, but I will follow them up with everyone individually. Deborah, is there any kind of final thoughts that you want to share with our delegates this morning?
Just to say thank you very much for attending, and as Lisa referenced, the sort of the high level of questioning, which you know, is great to see that people are engaging, and there's some you know, one or two questions I've seen there which are ideas of thoughts as well as how we could improve one or two things. So we're absolutely open and interested in ideas people have for components and for extensions. I can't say they'll all be there by next Tuesday, but they can certainly be built into our roadmap and our thinking. So we welcome your ideas and your feedback. And just to say thank you very much to Eoin, I think it's really useful to see how easy the extensions are to apply. One or two of them have got slightly odd names, as we've heard, and need a little bit of thinking through. But again, if you need to reference, remind, refresh yourselves with any of this, you know, the Academy is the place to go. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you to Eoin and Kevin and Lisa as well for their contributions this morning. Thank you.
Deborah, thank you. So that's it, folks. Just to echo what Deborah saying, thanks for joining us online. There's a few things that I want to make you aware of as a follow-up. A link to the recording of this webinar and any accompanying resources will be hitting your inbox as a follow-up to today's session. Feel free to share those amongst your team and your colleagues. There'll be a short survey when the learning hour closes. If you just take maybe a few seconds to fill in, it helps me shape future learning hours to make sure that they're ticking the box in learning technologies for our delegates. So as Deborah mentioned, we have relaunched the Adapt program on the Academy, and it's full of really great information about setting the scene for Adapt building, theming, and publishing. So a link to that will be on the email as well. And Deborah's mentioned our Learning Pool Live Adapt seminars, which are happening in June in Leeds and London. And also Learning Pool Live, which is our flagship conference, which is taking place on the 15th of October. And we have an early bird offer actually on at the minute, which runs out at the end of the month, where you're paying the £99 instead of £150. But all the details of those events are on allthews.learningpool.com events, and you get the chance to meet the lovely Eoin, Kevin, and Deborah in person and talk about Adapt and kind of what's hot in the world of learning technology at the minute. That email will also have a link to the Adapt Builder ebook, which you're also welcome to download and share amongst your team. So that all that remains is to thank you on behalf of Deborah, Kevin, Eoin, and myself for joining us today. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.